no matter how advanced your tools, your technologies are, the effectiveness of any project hinges on a clear, well-structured process foundation. So addressing these early on can make a huge difference in the success of both automation and AI initiatives. My go-to method here is to make the people part of the solution. It sounds very easy, but it's very complex. Try to make a finance employee or an HR employee part of the AI solution. So they are trying to understand, okay, it's not the AI against me, it's the AI and me. They are going to be the person who benefits the most from the technology, from the automation, from the AI. AI agents are definitely coming and they will change the way of how we are working right now. And right now, you can be at the forefront of the change.
Welcome to the new automation mindset, where AI, automation, and integration come together. I'm your host, Markus Zirn, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Enver Cetin. He's a senior manager at Ciklum, based in Munich. And before Ciklum, Enver was very deep into process management, also as a practitioner in a logistics company. So today at Ciklum, he's involved in Workato projects, also generative AI projects with Ciklum clients. So I think this should be like a really, really cool conversation. So Enver, first of all, welcome. And you know Workato pretty well. So maybe let's start off, like, what kind of Workato automation projects do you see? Maybe any ones that you thought were the most valuable to the business also. And then I heard that you guys are also using Workato at Ciklum itself. Maybe you can also talk to that.
Definitely, thanks. First of all, thanks, Markus, for having me. It's an honor to be here and talk about our projects, about our experiences around Workato and GenAI. So first of all, at Ciklum, our vision is to always engineer experiences with technology for our clients. And for our clients, we have leveraged Workato extensively for different projects, primarily focusing on integration and automation to support their digital transformation efforts. And there we are connecting for them various platforms and systems from Salesforce till HubSpot, and even for custom systems to ensure seamless data synchronization across different tools. One of the main use cases I always have in mind is that we're using Workato to automate key activities between CRMs, billing systems, and even BI tools, which not only have significantly reduced manual data entry and also improve their data accuracy. So that's our client side, but as you already said, we are also using Workato at Ciklum as well. So we are a partner and a client at the same time, and we've implemented Workato across a variety of projects that focus primarily on integration and automation. So we utilize Workato to sync data between our internal systems and external platforms. And this includes, for example, integrations through systems like ERM, SQL databases, Salesforce, Jira, and even Google APIs. And there, my favorite use cases or the most valuable ones are around automating HR processes, specifically the onboarding process, where we use Workato to streamline the setup of API endpoints for automated communication and background check for candidates to make sure we automate the whole background check and even have a way to sync calendars to find the best time to interview the candidates. And that's all done within Workato to reduce time being spent on processes and more focusing on the onboarding and interviewing part more.
No, this is excellent. So, I mean, you guys are making very good use of the kind of new automation mindset and, you know, the all the things that Workato facilitates. Now, kind of since last year, we're all dabbling in this new generative AI stuff, right? And you guys are no different. Like, Ciklum is at the forefront with your clients, and you specifically also. I know we had some really good conversations around GenAI. So what do you see there the most? Like, what are the types of projects that you guys do around generative AI in your client base? Any patterns there that you see?
Well, of course, GenAI is still rapidly a game is rapid. GenAI is rapidly becoming a game changer for many of our clients. And as you said, we've been there at the forefront of implementing technologies in various industries for various use cases. In our client base, the most common GenAI products we are seeing revolve around enhancing customer interaction. So it's all about customer, it's all about their data. And on the other hand, automating complex decision-making processes and unlocking valuable insights from all of the different amounts of data. So if a specific use case there would be probably around the customer support automation. So we've helped clients to deploy AI-driven chatbots and virtual assistants that not only handle routine inquiries, but also learn from interactions to improve over time. So we are not only saving time for the customer service people, but we are also engineering a way better experience for their customers. So making sure they are getting the right questions, getting the right answers at the perfect time, and do not wait for any unresolved tickets or questions, for example.
Mm-hmm. No, makes sense. And I think support makes a lot of sense. I mean, I personally think that GenAI, I think the kind of sweet spot to me is like knowledge management and customer support and so on. That makes just a lot of sense. I just wonder, like, we talked about Workato, we talked about GenAI. It seems like at the moment there's still kind of separate projects, right? Are you guys seeing anything where the two come together? Anything maybe that's planned also?
Great question. It's something since the whole hype around GenAI started. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is and the truth is for us that we are standing at the intersection of very two powerful technologies. Workato, which for me excels at automating and integrating processes, and GenAI, which brings intelligent predictive capabilities into the mix. So, but combining right now them isn't a straightforward process as it might seem. So you do see, or some of the reasons are that Workato and GenAI projects together is that the technologies are used for solving different challenges and solving different problems for what we see. So Workato is more about streamlining workflows and connecting different systems. And while GenAI is right now more focused on tasks like natural language processing, generating new content, and decision support. So there is still a gap, I think, but the potential is immense. I mean, we are right now exploring the combination of Workato and GenAI capabilities a lot. And I think it's going to revolutionize our recruiting processes, for example. So we, as I mentioned, our HR onboarding processes, we are also at the same time looking to use GenAI to analyze and predict candidate success, and then have Workato to automate the entire recruitment process from scheduling interviews to onboarding, and having the GenAI part for the large language model part for the natural language processing part. So making the best of both worlds. But I do still think there's still early days, but I'm definitely seeing a huge benefit there from combining Workato with generative AI capabilities.
Yeah, I think the recruiting is really interesting. You know, what we see quite a bit with other clients is, basically summarizing content. Let's imagine you have any kind of meeting, could be a sales meeting, actually could be an interview in the recruiting process. And then later on, you have to summarize what happened in a business system? Well, I mean, before that was all manual. And now with GenAI, I think you can actually, have the agent, have the GenAI technology at least suggest a possible summarization. That's a very, kind of likely and kind of a way to use it. There's obviously also the clients are reading emails and classifying them. That's another one that we see. Yeah.
I mean, you can focus on the things that matter, right? Stop focusing on just the process, focus on the candidate itself, focus on the value part of the process, than rather just doing the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you mentioned process, right? So and you have this big experience in business process. I think when we talked the other day, you kind of mentioned, look, I mean, Workato automation and then GenAI now coming in, fundamental for the value of all of this is that it gets applied in a business process. In fact, there's a Harvard a business review article from the people who did the BPR, business process redesign, back in the 90s that says, hey, the GenAI, I think it actually has the potential to really reignite BPR because all of a sudden, I think there's a lot more valuable stuff we can do with business process. So let's think about this at the foundational level. Maybe you can share a little bit your past with business processes. What have you seen? Maybe also what friction have you seen? What do you feel are still kind of areas that might make business process management difficult? Are there any insights there?
Well, absolutely. Business process management is, of course, the backbone that supports all technologies, supports Workato and supports GenAI project. And for me, especially, it's the underlying blueprint that guides the automation and intelligence these technologies bring to the table. So over the years, what I've learned is that no matter how advanced your tools, your technologies are, the effectiveness of any project hinges on a clear, well-structured process foundation. So one of the biggest lessons is that understanding the fine details of business processes allows us to automate and optimize them effectively. When we dig into a process, we often find inefficiencies or bottlenecks that weren't apparent before. So addressing these early on can make a huge difference in the success of both automation and AI initiatives. However, as you already mentioned, frictions, this is at the same time where the friction often lies. So first of all, there's a challenge of accurately mapping out the process, especially in large organizations where workflows and processes are complex and span across multiple departments, multiple teams. And getting everyone there on the same page can be a heavy task, particularly when different teams have their own versions of how things work at the company. And another friction, of course, is the change management part. So even when the processes are well documented, there can be resistance to change, especially if people fear or feel that automation might replace their jobs drastically. And this is where the communication and involvement from all stakeholders become crucial. So it's important to show how these technologies will enhance their work rather than just replace manual tasks. Then there's the challenge of keeping processes agile. And as we all know, in today's fast-paced business environment, processes need to be as flexible as possible. They need to adapt to new tools, market changes, evolving customer demands. And having static processes, static workflows can prevent innovation and make it difficult to integrate new technologies such GenAI or involving tools like Workato.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned, you might ask like 3 people in a company about a process and you might actually get 3 different answers. It might
Absolutely.
be surprising, but I think you've seen it. I've seen it for sure. So that's number one. Change management, really, really important. I remember like one of my early projects, I was just out of college and I was working in consulting. And we were actually called, it was a telco back then. They had, a 500-page folder describing in minutia the process. And to be honest, it was really well done. All the steps were there, all the bottlenecks were identified, everything was laid out, and yet they couldn't get the organization to change. And we actually had to rewind. We almost had to like throw that folder out and then basically bring together a group of like 25 people to recapture the process now, this time together as a team. And that made it easier. So all kinds of little tricks. And then maybe the last one, and I think we talked about this before, is that recognition that actually, even if you go to one person and you tell them, hey, can you now map up this process for me? I would say out of 100 people, 70 will probably have a real challenge. Maybe 30% will be able to do it, but the vast majority, I would say, just doesn't have that programming mindset to actually even visualize the process very accurately. I don't know. Is that something you've seen in your past?
Absolutely. I mean, we are all talking about processes. We are all talking about workflows. But do we really know when I talk about a process? Do we really talk about the same thing when I say process? Or do we really talk about the same thing when I tell about some mappings of a process? So it's not easy to map a process. You have different languages, you have different systems, you have different ways to map it. And what I definitely learned the hard way is do not trust what people tell you, trust what they note down, what they write on a whiteboard, what their process looks like, because that's the part where they start to think, right, is it really like that, or is it a gut feeling? Do I make something up right now? So always keep in mind, people will remember the processes differently in their mind than what they are telling you. So always bring them to a table, always have them a pen and paper right next to them, and map the process black and white. It doesn't matter if it's digital or on a paper, but while they explain the process with words, they'll 100% forget something, because it's not easy to tell 100% of what you're doing throughout the day, right?
And I would actually, you're making me think here right now, because I don't know if you've heard this analogy of like touching the elephant, and you can touch it like from 4 different sides and it looks a little different. Like, one might touch the tail, one might touch the tusks in the front, and it looks all different when they're blindfolded. I think what happens also in companies, there's very few people who have the overall perspective of the entire business process. I mean, they might be very much associated with one application that's a part of the process, or maybe they're involved in a certain segment of that process, but having that overall view, touching the elephant from all sides, there's really not that many people in a company who do that, which totally makes it hard then, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, we can stick to the analogy with the elephant. It's very hard to touch the elephant from all sides. It's almost impossible to touch the elephant from all sides. So you will definitely need people to have around the elephant to touch it, and then explain it to you, write it down, draw the elephant how it looks like for them, because I would even say it's always almost impossible for someone to know all processes from all know end-to-end processes for all different departments, application systems. So you will definitely need people, and you will have people in there. So start educating them, start to help them to understand how process works, because otherwise you'll never see the elephant from all sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's really fundamental. And I think what it does is, like, you can have a amazing technology like GenAI, right? Or you can have like a low code automation platform like Workato. But if you don't get that front end right on really figuring out where the bottlenecks are and what the process looks like, you might just be very fast at implementing the wrong thing, or like use GenAI in the wrong way, and that's a real problem. So listen, I think we talked a little bit before, and I think this is where this, I think, should get real fun. So this week, actually, at our annual conference, we're introducing at Workato, I think it's the biggest launch we've done in 10 years. We call it Workato Agentic. And really what it is it's a whole new way to describe a business process. And agentic obviously means there's GenAI in there. So if you think about before going like step by step and having to almost like with a programmer's mind map out the process, with Workato Agentic, basically you now have the ability to model almost like a digital twin of a person who does certain process steps. Because, we have an LLM now, so we kind of got the equivalent of a brain. We got LLM functions, which is almost like, what a person can do. And then we can map that back to Workato recipes to interact with the systems and so on. And then we have this concept of a RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation, which basically lets you feed the LLM with specific knowledge that specific employee actually knows and how they execute the process. And so in a way, if you use that Workato Agentic framework, you can describe a process almost without describing the process steps, right? With just by modeling the people. What do you think? Look, you're a process expert. You know Workato. You know GenAI. What do you think about Workato Agentic? Obviously this is super early days, but what goes through your mind?
Well, I think the introduction of Workato's agentic platform with, as you said, digital employee twins is a fascinating development. And I'm seeing it in the whole market that could significantly reshape how we see, think, and use process management right now. As far as I understood it, you are going to use large language models to create the digital twins. And with that, we are moving towards a future where business processes can be modeled and managed in a much more dynamic and intuitive way. And you need that. I am right now imagining in like that you have like a digital replica of an employee, one that understands not just the tasks, but they perform also around the context and the nuances of how they do it. So these digital twins can simulate human decision-making, adapt processes in real time, and even probably predict potential issues before they even arise. So this, for me, means you are going to have processes adapted to the new world of things. These processes can be more fluid, hyper-personalized, and responsive to change. So I think the impact of such agentic platform on process management could be profound. And I'm seeing, as you just explained it, describing and mapping a process without actually describing and mapping it's going to be a game changer for our process management.
Yeah. Tell me, just basically if you map back the friction that you've seen, because I think at the end of the day, our vision at Workato was always to make things easier, right? It's I know it's a lofty term, but democratization, get more people involved, right? It's hard to get everyone involved. It seems to me like that capturing the process at the front end, it still needed like a programmer's mindset, if that makes sense. So I think it was one of these last mile kind of thingies where it wasn't democratized. Again, if only 30% of people can do it, it isn't democratized. And I do feel that new approach could actually get more people into the process mapping exercise, because I do feel that describing what we do as a person, and then maybe the one thing that I left out is, because you got a digital twin, but it's not just one digital twin, right? It's almost like a network of digital twin. It's all the different people will have digital twins, and they obviously communicate with each other. But I think the complexity is less. I have a feeling more people will be able to drive business process, even though they don't drive the process itself, but the way they interact, it will open up the field for more people to get involved in the topic.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, we are talking for years now about democratization of technology, about low code, no code applications and systems. But I mean, as much as it gets down to low code and no code, it's still, you need to understand how processes work. You need to understand how you program, how you build a recipe, and it's not so easy. I mean, if it would be so easy, then you would need to be educated. You can just start and build all recipes you have in mind. So it's still a challenge for a lot of people to build applications within tools like Workato, and even tools where it's very easy to use it like it is in Workato, but you still have people who find it challenging. And having the ability to just describe, to just tell what you are doing throughout the day without having the need to drag and drop different tools, different applications, and just explaining by words, even with words, what you're doing is going to be a game changer for automation and going to be a game changer for process management. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we always had this, the analysts and the community had that vision of the citizen integrator. Basically I think we've gotten with low code, no code, I think we've gotten to the point where you don't have to be an integration specialist. You don't have to do this like all day, every day. You also don't have to be like an API specialist in the sense that you have to know REST and Java and, all of the technical things that got abstracted. But I do think, so the boundaries shifted, but they didn't shift like 100%. That citizen integrator that, everyone in an operational role can do it, I think that was still not accomplished. Maybe that new approach to describing the process actually could get us there.
Definitely. I think it's trying to solve the problem from a different perspective, from a different angle. And I think right now, with having technologies like generative AI, large language models, having the advanced natural language processing capabilities nowadays, it's definitely worth to try. And I think I'm already seeing hundreds of digital twins, employee twins throughout a huge organization who talk to each other, who start to dynamically change processes depending on how the customer is reacting right now, depending on the market, depending on demand changes. So I'm already looking forward.
So the agility, I mean, you talked about process agility as really important, right? That the process doesn't stay static. It seems like in the new model, that's almost like built in, right? You don't even have to change the process steps or the recipes or whatever. They'll fine tune themselves. I think that's kind of fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you see in terms of you've been on projects, the job roles that people have in IT and the business and in a service provider like Ciklum and so on. Do you see any new jobs or job roles emerge? Like how do you see that evolve if we're getting into that agentic world?
I mean, when the all hype around generative AI started, we saw, or it was a lot of in headlines that the new role of a prompt engineer is going to be crucial and very, very important. I don't see that anymore. So you don't need to be a prompt engineer nowadays on having in mind to use 90 to 95% of a large language model. And I do think we are going to see a lot of changes in roles, in how you manage a process with different roles in an organization. I do think you will still have specialists. I do think you will still have specialists for specific use cases in your organization, but you will less have the people who are trying to oversee the process from end to end. Because I think that's why tools like Workato, in combination with generative AI technologies, are way better than humans are. And I think humans are going to focus more on the part of specializing on one use case, on one task, and helping the AI to understand that, rather than trying to balance multiple processes at the same time. Or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm actually just thinking this through. I mean, the one thing, I mean, we talked about agility, right? And the process almost fine-tuning itself with the LLM, which obviously is fascinating, which on the other hand can also be a little intimidating. I mean, you cannot. I mean, it's almost the process takes a mind of its own, if that makes sense, right? You don't have full control about it anymore, which can maybe freak out some people, maybe freak out certain people I can just imagine in a regulated industry. That might be actually quite challenging. I don't know if maybe is it going to be like a mixture? Maybe there's certain process areas where we just have to stick to a very controlled, deterministic process, and then there's other areas where we're okay doing it the new way. That's what's going through my mind.
Absolutely. And there again, I think communication and change management is going to be key. I think we still have, even like when I will try to push agentic AI into organizations, the amount of resistance I am getting is double or even 3 times more than when I try to establish automation. Because as soon as I start to tell people about AI and they read all the headlines in the newspapers of how many jobs AI is going to kill, it's definitely huge that we start to think and start to understand how we can manage the change for the people here. Because without the people describing the process to us, describing the process to the agentic platform, we don't know how the process works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you're making a good point. I don't know, what do you think is the antidote for that? Like, what do you think will make people comfortable? I mean, we always talk about keeping the human in the loop, right? Getting, maybe as a first step, not having the LLMs do all the work straight through, but putting in the approval steps in the middle. Anything else that you can feel like, when you get that resistance from clients, what's your argumentation, or how do you maybe convince them otherwise to give it a shot?
Well, there are different ways, of course, but my go-to method here is to make the people part of the solution. It sounds very easy, but it's very complex. Try to make a finance employee or an HR employee part of the AI solution. So by making them part of the solution, they are not going to resist against themselves. So they are trying to understand, okay, it's not the AI against me, it's the AI and me, and try to understand them that they are going to be the person who benefits the most from the technology, from the automation, from the AI. So make them part of the solution, and they are less likely to be against your solution because it would be against themselves. But of course, I I know, I experience it a lot of times, you will always have some people who are against every change, who are against every technology, any change in their day-to-day work. They just want to do it for the next 10 years and then go out of work, and that's it. I don't think we should focus all of our mind, work, and time to change all of the people. We should focus on trying to change 90% of the people. And with that 90%, you can do a lot of things.
That sounds good. Well, you're based in Munich, Germany. I mean, we both have German heritage, and we know that maybe that's one of the toughest places to drive change anywhere in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you know how to drive change in Germany, then you can do it everywhere else, because the resistance sometimes you are getting here, and sometimes the people are right. I mean, you cannot just push a technology in an organization to say, okay, now we are using AI and that's it. That's not how it works, especially not here in Germany. So when you know how to how to drive change, how to drive AI in Germany, then you can do it everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's on a positive note, I think process is probably one of the things that Germany would excel at, and maybe the odds there are a little bit better than in other places. So yeah, it's very interesting. Listen, one question that comes to my mind, I'd be really curious what you think. So we talked about business process, GenAI. We talked about Workato, which obviously right now sits almost as the glue between all the business systems. You mentioned like Salesforce, SAP, HubSpot, whatever it might be, right? A lot of the process today is in some of these in some of the business systems still, right? Workato just ties them together. I wonder what GenAI will do to that new ecosystem of applications and orchestration platforms in the middle and so on. It seems like there will be some disruption also. Let me give you an example. So we talked to a big bank, and it's an institutional bank, and they're getting customer support through email. So they wanted to automate that email support. And what they did is they put in an incident tracking system, a business system. But really all that system did, what it basically tracked each email coming in, and then the person still had to answer read the email, kind of decide what needs to be done, then go to multiple systems to actually affect what needs to be done, and then write an email back. Only that now, instead of having to go to 5 systems and affect change, now they had to go to 6 systems because they also had to track it. That was automation of the past. I feel like now we got GenAI, right? We can attempt at least read that email with GenAI. You can use something Workato to then actually affect all the things based on what was determined. You can use GenAI again to suggest an email back. You can actually do a much better job at automating that process, if that makes sense. And in a way, it seems to me that maybe there will be more interaction with the agents or with the GenAI, with the LLMs, than with the applications in the past. Maybe more of the process will actually happen outside. Maybe the applications themselves will actually maybe they will shrink a little bit in importance. I'm just very curious what you maybe I'm wrong about all of this. What do you think? I mean, in this ecosystem of like what you do to implement an end-to-end process with multiple business systems and now AI and then an orchestration platform. Like, how do you think the boundaries will reshape?
I do think we are going to see a change in there. I mean, when you nowadays look at ERP systems like SAP or Salesforce or other CRM ERP systems, their main goal is to define what a human can do within the ERP system, right? It tells you on what to do, tells you where your boundaries are. You can just go the whole accounts payable or accounts receivable process on your own. It tells you where to access your data. It tells you where your boundaries are, and that's it. So you are defining humans' work in these kind of ERP and CRM systems. And you don't need to do that with AI or with AI agents anymore, right? So it changes the whole aspect of why we do have systems and applications. You don't need to have boundaries anymore when you don't have humans who can just do whatever they want. You are going to have agents who have access to different functions, and you can call these functions within your email program, but you don't need to have a fully designed, fully configured SAP or Salesforce system anymore that defines how humans can work in your company.
Yeah, it seems to me like a lot of the value of the applications was in the fact that it was so hard to model the process yourself, if that makes sense. Because if it's pre-modeled and if it's pre-done, it takes away all that risk of getting it wrong, right? And you just, instead of defining it how it should be in your company, you just say like, okay, well, SAP tells me that's how it should be done. Let's just use it and be done with it. I guess
I cannot make any mistakes.
You cannot make a mistake, right? But now, if it's easier with these agents and agentic to describe and so on, maybe you need less of that. I guess it makes sense.
Absolutely. So you do not need to have boundaries. You do not need to design huge systems, applications, and map your static process in there, because you do need to have dynamic processes there to react to changes, to react to customers. And that's where AI agents can help. And you don't need to limit these AI agents like you are limiting right now humans in your systems.
Mm. Well, it seems like there's some processes like, finance, when you're keeping the books and the general ledger and all of that. It probably will still make a lot of sense to buy that best practice, not figure this out yourself. But then other things, maybe less so. And
absolutely,
some of the, it also seems to me, if you think about like a CRM application, it actually is mind-boggling today that a lot of is still, it does good BI and it keeps the all the data on the sales process and so on, but the way of how it needs to be fed is still super manual. If I don't put the right information in, all of it is kind of useless. But the application itself really doesn't help me that much to feed the information in. This is where GenAI can actually just make such a big difference.
Absolutely. And I would even say, in the future, the only reason to not have AI agents to control the whole process, they will always tell you, but we need someone responsible for it. What happens when the model writes to a customer or books millions into the wrong direction? Who is going to pay for it? Who is responsible? And right now, it's very hard to make AI models responsible for it. So you will always have a human in there just to make sure, okay, when it does go wrong, we have a human in there, and then that human is going to be responsible for it, and that's it.
Look, Enver, this is fascinating. I don't know if something else goes through your mind, but my sense is the audience is probably right now their minds are blown and they're trying to digest all of this. So maybe we shouldn't push it too much. But maybe curious, is there anything else that you feel like we should tell the audience? Where do you think this is gonna go? Maybe what should they be aware of that they might not be?
What they might not be. So I think AI agents are definitely coming. AI AI agents are definitely coming, and they will change the way of how we are working right now. And right now you can be at the forefront of the change. Right now it's the time to be at the forefront. Right now you can be the one who drives the change in your organization, and you can, with the help of these AI agents, and I'm loving your analogy with the elephant here. With the help of AI agents, you can try to see the elephant and feel the elephant from all sides. So when you want to feel the elephant, see the elephant from all sides, you will definitely use tools like Workato. You will definitely use their capabilities to have digital employee twins, and you will need to re-engineer your processes to drive new experiences for your customers, for your employees.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem so far-fetched. It might, you might go like, oh, well, this is crazy because we're going from this step-by-step to now a complete new definition. I would say, I know that you also were part of the RPA world, right? I mean, in a way, that digital twin of an employee is actually quite similar to what RPA was talking about. It's just that, there's a bot, right? It's only that with RPA, the bot actually was like a factory robot. It didn't have a brain. It didn't have the LLM, so it could only do the things, and you had to remote control it, like very, very fine-grained, where now it is a real person. So it feels like it's actually not that crazy. It's more like evolutionary of like, well, let's create a better bot. Let's create a better robot with all the technology that we have right now.
Absolutely. It's not rocket science anymore. It's definitely working. I mean, we do see it in the market. Who could have thought that we are going to use tools like ChatGPT multiple times a day? So it's now here, and you can be the one at the forefront using it. And you will have people like you had at the times of where RPA started, who just told you like RPA or automation is not working. My process is very personalized, and it kind of still worked out with the help of automation. And it will even bring up to the new level of automation with the help of large language models.
Well, anyway, hey, Enver, I really appreciate you spending the time here. I think we got a lot of people listening to this thinking, and I think that's the most important aspect here. I do think, with all things GenAI, now is the time to actually get involved. If you don't want to be left behind, you can still make your decision what you want to do and what you don't want to do. But I think my recommendation is always, if you don't get involved, there's a good chance you might fall behind, because it seems like there is some disruption coming to process management. I think we both seem to agree on that, and but in a way, a good way, because it feels like we're further, with low code, no code, we democratized programming. It seems like now we're democratizing the understanding of process, or the capturing of process in a way.
Perfect final words.
Thank you so much for your time, Enver. That was fun.
Thanks for having me, Markus.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Please make sure to rate today's episode, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.